Have you dreamed about owning a motorhome? Have you worked your whole life and you want nothing more to take you and your family on the road, but fear is holding you back?
Are your trips limited because you can't go a certain amount of time because you only have one driver? So let us show you today how you and your partner can take these long trips without having to stop. And in terms of safety, God forbid something happens and the one person that knows how to drive the motorhome is incapacitated. Nobody else knows how to operate this motorhome. So in this video today, guys, we are going to give you the skills that you will need to feel confident to be able to drive something that you may have never thought possible. Hey guys, it's MJ from Endless RVing, the channel that brings you the best in RV DIYs, product reviews, RV tours, and so much more. If you're new to the channel, we invite you to subscribe below, hit that notification bell, and if you're back for another video, we thank you for joining us. So according to the Family Motor Coach Association, here are the top 5 insurance claims for RV accidents. So we're telling you these insurance claims because in today's video, we are going to teach you the skills that you will need in order to avoid these horrible mishaps. Number 1, always fun, hitting islands at the gas pumps. Number 2 is hitting obstacles at right turns. So we're going to explain and show you the pivot point. Number 3 is hitting overhead obstructions. Number 4, backing into something. And number 5 is side swipe damage. So today's video is kind of a part 2. A while back, we made a video called How to Drive an RV Motorhome Made Simple. We're gonna link that right up here. And in that video, we did basic driving skills and tips. Today, we're gonna really focus on 2 specific areas, which is parking, so pulling into a campsite, things like that, gas stations, and also turning and pulling out of places. So these are the 2 main skills that you're gonna learn about today. So the first skill that we're gonna talk about in detail is parking. So parking can be either at a gas station, if you're pulling up to the pumps, or especially at campgrounds. Pull through and back ends. Back ends, of course, tend to be a little more challenging, so we're going to touch on that a little bit more. All right, so the first thing is when you're coming up to your campsite, for example, if you're at a pull-through site, which of course is always nice. You always want to know your height, not really for a campsite, but just all around. We're 12'8", we know that. We know we have to avoid any bridges and tunnels and things like that that we would be restricted from. So right here to the right, we have our makeshift campsite in a parking lot, okay? So the position I'm in right now is actually a little tight, all right? So what I'm gonna do, as I mentioned in the first video, the turns on something this large always have to be wide, all right? So I'm gonna swing around here, get a nice, really nice wide turn, cut all the way in. Okay, now, again, don't be afraid. It looks like you're going to hit. It really does look like you're going to hit. But if you keep it tight. All right, now as I'm doing this, as I'm pulling into this site, I'm watching my back wheel in the mirror, in the passenger side mirror, all right, to make sure I have enough clearance there, right? Plenty of room. That's so important as you're pulling into a site to make sure that you are keeping your back of the RV in your view and not hitting anything. So checking for obstructions as you're pulling in. It could be the hookups, it could be trees, it could be holes, it could be anything. So make sure you pick the right campsite, gas station, things like that. The bigger your rig is, obviously you have to be even more careful. So for campsites, you have to make sure the length of that campsite is going to accommodate you. For gas stations, many times we've had to turn around and leave a gas station as we were pulling because we realized we just weren't going to fit. You don't want to take your roof off. So you have to be very aware of your size before you do enter these places. Another tip, really for newbies, make sure that you park your RV with the hookups or the gas tank on the correct side. So if you're pulling in and your gas tank is on the right, make sure that's where you're measuring your RV to line up with that. Same thing with the hookups, make sure they're on the correct side. All right, so pulling into a campsite, having a pull through is much easier than having a back in. So we're going to talk about how to best back into a site. First, number 1 thing is to have a partner. Izzy and I use radios, as many of you know. We'll link those below. They have been a lifesaver for our parking and our marriage, and we would never do any of this without them. So when we get to the site, I'll pull in, get ready to back in, and then Izzy will jump out with the radio.
Okay, so now simulating a campsite back in, MJ is now far ahead of where she needs to be regarding the campsite. So I'm out on the radio, I'm gonna direct her in, I'm behind her. What I'm doing is I'm gonna be looking for not only what's behind her, but what's around her, and especially what's above her. Because a lot of these campgrounds, there's trees, there's obstructions, there's no way as a driver you can see what's above you, and that's what's gonna cost you potentially a lot of money and an insurance claim. So I got my radio out, and I'm gonna let her know to start backing up. Okay, hon, start backing up and just go straight. So as she's going, I'm gonna start, okay, you can start cutting toward your passenger side. Cut hard, passenger side. And I'm watching her, and she's doing well. Keep coming back, hon, keep coming back. And I'm watching for overhead. I'm watching everything that's behind her. She's gonna be responsible for what's in front of her. Keep going straight back, cut hard toward your passenger, hon. Hard toward the passenger. Good, keep going, keep going. Good, good. Now straighten your wheel out, straight back. And then I'm gonna keep watching, and she's keep going, and stop. Now what I'm looking for here, normally at a campground, the hookups are gonna be on the driver's side. And notice when I gave her direction, I said driver's side or passenger side. That way there's no confusion left or right. It's the same. It's either driver's side or passenger side. And as you can see, we are set up here, and now we are good to go. We do this every single time. Either if I'm driving, she's out giving direction, and if she's driving, I'm out giving direction.
I know Izzy mentioned this, I definitely want to stress it again. I can't stress this enough. Even though you're using two people, that one person, the spotter, cannot possibly see everything that's going on 360 on the vehicle. So as Izzy is backing me in, I am totally concentrating on the mirrors, the front, the rear view cameras, so I am getting as much of a 360 as possible. When I was backing in, I was going to hit the curb if I kept cutting, so I knew I had to straighten out a little bit, and then I could start cutting again in order to avoid any obstructions. Okay, so you are in your campground, you're in the gas station, you didn't hit anything, good job. If you did, keep practicing. If you didn't, now it's time to leave. So now I gotta get the heck out of here without crashing into something. All right, so the first very important point to remember is something called rear tracking. So rear tracking, in a nutshell, is basically to understand that the path that your front tires take is not the path that your back tires will take. So in simple terms, basically, as you're pulling out of a campsite or a gas station, you have to pull up far enough to make sure your back tire clears any obstructions, which is why it is so key that when you do pull into a gas station or anywhere, that you have plenty and ample room in front of the motorhome to pull up in order to exit. All right, so your pivot point, you may have heard this in terms of driving, this is your pivot point at the drive axle. Everything behind that, so all of this is going to be your rear overhang, and this is where the accidents occur in most cases when people exit and don't leave enough space. All right, so I'm gonna give you two examples. One, I'm going to crash into the obstruction, and two, I'm gonna show you the correct way to do it. All right, so the cones behind me are going to signify an obstruction. That could be a gas pump, a campsite, a brick wall, anything like that.
Okay, so the cones that are behind the wheel here next to the wheel, they're going to represent a wall, what could be a potential obstruction. So what MJ is going to do on the first run, she's going to do it incorrectly. She's going to cut really hard and make a left turn toward the driver's side, and you're going to see what's going to happen. So you can see that right there, that is the rear passenger side going right into a concrete wall potentially. Okay, so here we are again, the cones are set up representing an obstruction. Now MJ is going to take a left turn, and she's going to do it correctly, making sure that the overhang clears the cones or the obstruction. So she is going to be looking in her mirror. She's going to make sure everything is clear. Now she's going to start making that turn, and she is going to get out of wherever she needs to be. Now just keep in mind, sometimes you're not going to be in a parking lot this big. So what you're going to have to do, and we've done this many times, if we're in a tight spot and we're towing a trailer, one person's going to hop out and they are going to make sure you're clear everything, because it's much easier to take those extra 30 seconds than to be in the body shop.
So a really critical thing to remember too, guys, so we don't hit people or things or curbs or whatever, is you do have a blind spot. And in our motorhome, they'll be different, but ours is about, if I'm sitting, I cannot see about 8 feet in front of me. All right, if I'm standing, it's about 4 feet, but who's driving standing up, right? So you have a decent amount of room there that you are not able to see. That, again, really reiterates the importance of having a partner helping you maneuver this thing when you get to a spot. If you're a single traveler, don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask the camp host, ask a neighbor, but definitely it is worth it to avoid causing any damage to property or humans. This video is really meant to be viewed in addition to the video that we had done previously on driving. We touched on turning in there a little bit, but this really got more in depth. Viewing these two videos should really give you a good handle on what it takes to start driving one of these vehicles. You can do it. The most important thing, guys, to remember is to practice. You're going to make mistakes, it's okay, but stick to it, keep practicing, and before you know it, you will be driving this thing like a rock star. So we want to hear from you. Do you drive your RV, your motorhome, whatever you have? Do you feel confident? Are you afraid to do it? And hopefully if you are, this gave you a little confidence boost. But put in the comments below, guys, tell us your experience about driving one of these. Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Let us know. Feel free to share this video for people that you know may be a little nervous about driving. It'll definitely give them some more confidence. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up. And to the left of us, we are going to put our RV DIYs and our RV newbies playlist. And from Izzy, who's on the camera, and myself, we thank you for watching. We'll see you on the road.